Hello, everybody that may be watching this today or later. Hi.
Hi.
What's up, YouTube? Today we're gonna do an examination on New Belgium Fat Tire. This,
And
huh?
I am going to be drinking, due to distribution purposes, new Albanian Elector Imperial Red IPA. Or Imperial Red Ale, I should say, not an IPA.
Yeah, Eric got his own special beer there. But Fat Tire is coming in at 5.2 5.2% alcohol, 22 IBUs. The yeast used is house ale yeast. It's coming at 160 calories. The hops is Willamite Golding Nugget. And the malts is Pale C80. What is that? Munchie Victory.
Lucky victory. Mm. Oh, maybe you're reading Munich and Victory.
Yeah, I'm reading off their website.
Because Munich is a variety of the malt. I know that.
But looks like I got a pretty fresh bottle. I mean, enjoy by November 22nd, 15. So I'm going to say it's a pretty fresh bottle. So
The doctor rated and recommended beer, I guess, right? Him
yeah.
and what's
Well,
his
you're a little fresher than mine. Mine is October.
So
the big bomber here that is not the New Belgium beer does not have a date on the bottle, guys. You gotta put a date on the bottle, guys.
but overall, I mean, it's a pretty clear amber, dark golden color.
Yeah.
The head, but it's got some pretty good lacing on it.
So that beer, I know you haven't gotten to the, we haven't gotten to the taste of your beer yet, but that beer is not supposed to be designed to be a really big and robust and hot bomb or have that huge and dynamic of a kind of a flavor, but it's sort of a beer that almost anybody that wants to try the beer is interested in it can go and pick it up and shouldn't have much of a problem in drinking it.
No,
That correctly.
it's it's distroed pretty heavily right here. You can get it. You can almost get it now at your local gas stations anymore. So
Yeah, I was reading on online recently this afternoon that I think I was reading something like New Belgium has. I think they get distributed into like 100. There's not 100 states and 32 out of the 50 states. So I mean they're doing pretty good, and hopefully they can get their distributions a little bit further up into New England so I can try some of their beers.
but this is pretty much their flagship starter beer, I believe, right?
Sounds like that, yeah.
Yeah.
This beer is very interesting to me. It tastes like a Pilsner with sweet, smoky notes to it.
Sounds damn good.
I I get the maltiness, uh, a little bit of smoke, but I also get like almost like a biscuity type taste out of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say sweet biscuity and caramel malts for the nose.
Yeah, definitely tasting caramel.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, the biscuit is kind of like a buttermilk biscuit almost, like something like buttery.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to compare it to what I'm drinking. I'm looking at the stats. I know they use the nugget hops in the Elector beer here, so maybe we'll sort of get, and they also finish it with the Cascade hops. So maybe we'll get similar type flavors. I mean, a lot of these breweries use their own kind of house yeast, so that may change the complexity a little bit. And the malts that are used in my beer are entirely different from the malts that are in your beer, although they specify special pale, and yours just says pale malt. So maybe there will be certain similarities to it.
And I'm pretty sure that they use their own yeast strand.
Yeah, and I think that's really gonna. I think depending on how much of it's being used by these breweries in just using the house strain and a lot of their different beers, a lot of the beers are gonna feel and sort of have that similar flavor to them beyond. I mean, yeah, beyond just the one that you're drinking. So I gotta imagine that a lot of the New Belgian beers, even if they're different styles, they may still have that sort of similar underlining flavor from that same yeast strain or that same water that they're using.
Yeah.
So imagine that.
But I think when this fat tire first come out, it was such a high demand for this beer that I believe now the demand for it's kind of slid down a little bit. I don't think it's the hipster type beer what it was back when it first came out.
Yeah, it doesn't seem as popularized anymore. What I noticed, like when I was in Hawaii, this is like the only craft beer they had, and it was like all over the place. But I don't see that much I mean, it's not advertised that much anymore. I don't see too much people talking about it.
Yeah.
On Rate Beer, they give it an overall score of 45. The style, they give it 58.
No, I notice when I get Beer Advocate magazines, they have a lot of ads for their session IPAs and their Ranger IPAs. So they really seem to be. I don't know if that's just the beer world that we live in now, the craft beer industry, but they seem to be pushing IPAs and session IPAs like crazy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
actually,
never really knew that, red ales or amber ales. I mean, amber lagers, sure, but that red ales or amber ales are really a hip or a trendy kind of a beer style for whatever reason. But they're good. They're not a bad style to try, but they're just never get the attention. Just kind of like with brown ales, they just never get for whatever reason.
As I was saying, I'm noticing the Ranger IPAs being in more stores than actually the Fat Tire. I see them all at the local gas stations or at almost every supermarket. The only place I mainly see the Fat Tire is like at Vons.
Yeah, it's pretty readily available around here, like your Walmarts, your Myers, and a lot of places like that. But it's not an end cap beer like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's like what Eric said. You're seeing more of your session IPAs and your IPAs more on your end caps now. I think that's the beers that they're pushing because that's the beers that people's most really wanting. Is those big hop beers. It's like, how much hop can I put in a beer before it's chewable?
Yeah, I don't get the sense that even at 22 IBUs that the Fat Tire that you guys are drinking is any of that. It's just probably just an easy, smooth drinking beer that, doesn't have to have a lot of contemplation involved in drinking it while you're having it, but it's still got a nice variety of flavors. Is that what I'm sensing?
It's definitely got a nice variety of flavors. It could be a sessionable beer. Not a bunch of them at one time.
Right.
Yeah. It's a very enjoyable beer. It's clean. It's fresh. I mean, it's great to the palate. But overall, I mean, my impression of this beer, it's a pretty good beer.
Yeah, it's really different than what I normally drink because I normally drink in between Pilsners, IPAs, and adjuncts. And this brings a little bit more different to the table with its smokiness and its caramel flavor. It really puts a spin on what I drink normally.
Is that a medium kind of a mouthfeel, a light mouthfeel? Well, how would you describe that?
I'd call it a medium mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's not that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say medium as well.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that when drinking this new Albanian Elector beer, I noticed that Tom the Beer Whisperer, was talking about in his review of my beer that I'm drinking and I think he might be on something about that, where he says, as the hops it's not a precise equation though, but it seems like as the hoppiness in the beer progressively gets higher and higher, the body of the beer almost wants to thin out a little bit, so that it's a smoother drinking beer. But you're getting that sort of a slap in the face and that onslaught of all the flavors. But you know what? I can't imagine that at 22 IBUs that would really necessarily be a huge mouth feeling, slick, oily kind of a feeling beer at all. And that's probably not the intent of that beer at all.
You take this Fat Tire, which is 5.2% alcohol. That's not much more than what I would consider your average adjunct lager, really.
Right.
The IBUs are a little heavier. The calories are a little bigger, so that's where you're getting your bigger mouthfeel at. But overall, I mean, you're not getting much more of a bang for your buck than what you would just go buy your beer, unless you want more of a malty taste and a little bit of hop and caramel taste to it.
Right.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, but when it comes to me, I like my beers around the 5% range, unless it's an IPA, then I would allow it to go up to 8. But when it comes to the other ales or the lagers, I tend to like them to stick around the 5 point range.
Yeah, I like to stick around 5 or maybe a little bit more than that, not much more than that. But it depends on what kind of beer I'm drinking. I don't like these great big 100 IBU beers. I'm not a big fan of them. I'll drink them on occasion, but no, I'm not. I like to stick around about what you say, Keanu, about 5% or maybe 5.5.
Especially what John just said about 100 IBUs, having that 100 bitterness unit level. I don't mind that kind of a beer, and I do enjoy those beers a lot. Those kind of beers a lot that have a lot of stuff going on, but I just don't like a heavy beer that's way too unbalanced. Where obviously, if I'm drinking an IPA at that kind of a range and bitterness unit level, I want to taste that absolutely that it's all that bitter. But if all it is bitter, it doesn't have any malty flavors, and all I'm getting is a one-dimensional kind of a beer, and I can't even taste the fact that these brewers aren't using any other types of ingredients, it gets kind of it's off-putting at that point.
But I'm going to throw this out there and see if you guys agree or not. But I mean, I'm not comparing this to the big three.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to compare this beer to the big three in the sense that it's the same taste every time. The consistency of this beer is consistent every time I've had it. I've never bought no more than 1 or 2 at a time over the years, but I've always drank 1 or 2 of them at a time.
Right.
The consistency of this beer from the time it started to right now has stayed the same. But you get up into your 100 IBU beers and your 90 IBU beers, and all that, you can drink one, and 6 months later, I mean, it's just I don't think sometimes the consistency gets thrown off on those beers.
Absolutely, but I get the sense that Fat Tire, almost like with the San Boston Lagers, it's pretty consistent in its flavor and its profile across the board, no matter how many times you've had it. I gotta imagine that.
Yeah, I think they're kind of like a macro brew, but they're still making craft beer.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I call an everyday shelf beer in most places now. I mean, where you live, I mean, you can't get it. But around here, I mean, it's a pretty common beer. I don't think it's got near the following that it had back a few years ago, but I mean, it's enjoyable ale. I mean, you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, here in California, there's a big battle between Stone, Ballast Point, and I think it's called St. Archer.
Yeah.
Those 3 companies are just going head-to-head in the craft beer market. I always see their products right next to each other, trying to outdo each other, basically.
Well, I would pick Ballast Point every time, like you, Eric, right? Well, but I'm not a fan of Stone beers. I'll drink one if somebody brings one over to share, because I can drink one, I can drink this one, I can drink that one, and there's just not much of a difference between the 3 or 4 that you try.
Exactly what I was going to say. In my opinion, Stone beer is a pretty good beer. It's not bad at all, but a lot of the beers, they all taste the same. Like, you drink the Arrogant Bastard, you drink the Pale Ale, you drink the IPA. They all have the same signature taste that you're going to find in each one of those. With Ballast Point, they tend to mix it up whichever beer you buy.
Yeah.
This is one I want to check out on my next beer review.
Ooh, I know I get a lot of their beers.
I'll look around, but we might be able to get that here. I'll look.
Green. I've always thought of Green Flash as being the brewery that likes to play around with your emotions. Like, everything they do, except they have a stout that's really, really good, and it's not really all that much of a hop bomb or a hoppy mess. But they like to do so many different styles of beers, and everything's got to be, here are the hops, front and center. If you don't like hops, then you may not want to drink these beers at all. So they like to play around.
I really like Green Flash as well. They tend to experiment around with the hops. I
Yep.
know a lot of their beers have different types of hops going on, but for the most part, they tend to use more of a floral hops than a piney hops that you would find in like Sierra Nevada or something like that.
Right.
But I mean, you, you take a lot of Sierra Nevada beers. I mean, I put them up for a stone. A lot of their beers, it's got that same hop consistency from beer to beer to beer.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And plus, they just make all their beers with that piney hops. They
Yeah.
don't really go to. They don't dive too much into the citrusy or floral hops like Green Flash or even Ballast Point would.
Yeah.
You can distinctively tell that when that when you read the back of their bottle or you read on their website, it says we whole cone hops. You can tell in most of their, even in their lagers, in some of the pilsners that they make, even that Summerfest lager, you can tell that, oh yeah, I've tasted this. I've tasted this hoppy flavor before. You could almost put a blindfold on probably a lot of people that are in this online beer community or people that write consistently on Beer Advocate or Rate Beer, and you could probably blindfold those people, and you could probably, I would say fairly easily be able to tell which craft beer, if you are tasting 3 or 4 of them blindfolded, probably which one or which ones are that Sierra Nevada beer, just due to
Yeah.
that kind of a hoppy flavor that they all seem to have similar to them.
I had a buddy come over last night, brung a 6-pack of the Nooner, and sit around and drank a couple of them. Up. Man, that's almost like a little bit hoppier version of just a regular shelf beer.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely hoppier than than their summer
Yeah.
fest. Just the normal sort of.
I'm kind of curious, John. What would you pair with this beer, like food wise?
New Belgium.
If I was to pair something, I tell you what, a good old freaking medium rare steak and a baked potato would go awesome with this.
That sounds pretty good. I was thinking glazed barbecue ribs would
Yeah.
go with this.
Now,
Yeah.
is that beer on the sweet side or is it on the drier side, or how would you describe that?
It is pretty much sweet with a little bit of smoky. There's a tiny bit of bite at the end, but for the most part, it's not. I wouldn't say it's that dry.
No.
Right. Because I'm trying to imagine having that style of beer with the ribs, and I think you're onto something about that. It definitely depending on what kind of a sauce on a food that you're having, and what kind of a spice level. I think that would determine if I want more of a drier kind of a tasting beer, if I want more of a sweeter kind of tasting beer. But I think maybe the style that you're drinking might just be enough in the middle that it could work with a wide variety of things.
This beer could work with a variety of things. I mean, because it's got that little bit of biscuity taste. It's got some malt. It's definitely got just the right characteristics of this beer with the right IBUs to carry this beer to a good plate of food.
Yeah, definitely. This beer, to me, has some characteristics that, it shares some characteristics with, what is that called? San Miguel's, but is definitely more sweeter, in my opinion. And a little bit more smokier as well. Well, San Miguel, I don't think has any smoky notes to it, though.
Right. Yeah, I'm noticing that in thinking about the question that you just posed about food, I'm noticing definitely in an imperial version, it's probably almost like the beer that you guys are drinking. I mean, some of the ingredients are a little bit different, but it's probably very similar. But it's got, I think, 7.5% alcohol in it. It's
Wow.
definitely a little bit more with 62 IBUs. Definitely, it's 40 more IBU unit ratings than yours. So, and I'm definitely finding, because of all of those factors, that it is a little bit, and it uses the Cascade. So, and it is drying it out considerably, this beer. So you'd have to probably either, especially with imperial styles, you got to be careful because sometimes they can mask and overpower foods and other flavors entirely, especially when they're a little bit higher in the alcohol range. But I got to imagine that if you want to really, if you have a really big pungent kind of a food or cheeses, like maybe chicken wing, hot spicy wings, Thai or curry food, Limburger cheese or some kind of really potent, pungent cheese or something that's got a real sharp, stinging flavor. if you really want to wash your palate out, a big old IPA or a big old Imperial Red Ale or something that's got a really good hoppy and a really strong malt base is going to be able to clean out that palate and sort of reset it to get to that next bite again. And especially with spicy food, it'll get rid of that instantly with this beer, I think.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I feel like IPAs would do good with cheese. I think it pairs good with the bitterness of the IPA itself.
Yeah, sometimes you want a contrast almost where you're having such a strong flavor and then you drink such a strong flavor that your palate cannot even discern. I mean, you want to remember the flavor of the food, obviously, but you almost want to wash that out, try the beer, and then reset all over again into drinking or eating that food, I should say.
I think you're talking about cheese. I think this beer would go real good with a real good aged cheddar.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Definitely.
With a real good cracker with some cheddar, aged cheddar. This is on the top.
I guess the big question that our pal in Louisiana beer reviews would pose: would you buy this? Would you buy the Fat Tire again? Would you? Why or why not?
I think I'm kind of borderline. Like, I would if it was on sale or something, but it wouldn't be something I'd go out of my way to buy.
There's not a huge wow factor going on.
Huh?
There's not a huge wow. There's not enough of a wow factor to go, yeah.
It's just not my style of beer. I mostly keep my beers in 3 categories, which is my adjuncts, my pilsners, and my IPAs. This is a nice beer, but it's just not exactly what I'm looking for. Don't get me wrong, it has a pretty nice balance. I believe that the hops and the malt that you find in the beer is pretty well balanced. It's just the smoky sweetness to it is nice, but it's not something that I would want to drink all the time.
Gotcha.
That'd be. Would I buy this beer again if somebody wanted to do another examination on it? I would buy it again. Or if I was somewhere that had nothing to offer and they had this on draft, I would buy this. But I mean, when this beer first came out and I tried, I thought it was a decent beer. I thought it was a reputable beer. I mean, it's a consistent beer. I mean, you got to give them that for it's. To me, I mean, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to throw this out there. It's almost got similarities to, I'm going to say, an adjunct. It's not much more, of an alcohol per volume than that. I mean, it's got a lot more taste than that. But if I didn't get a wow factor out of this beer by no means. 6 months down the road, if somebody brings one to my house and I drink it, I'll drink it. But I mean, overall, I mean, I give this beer a B for what it is, a B plus. I mean, you have to, because I'm trying to judge the beer on what it is. I mean, so I give it a solid B plus.
Nice.
I agree with that for the most part. The main thing that makes this not be my go-to beer is just the price and performance. It doesn't seem outstanding, and given the price, it doesn't weigh itself out very well.
And I agree with that, Keanu, because I stopped at my local Meijer store. They're a little bit, I think, a little bit more along the lines of Walmart, maybe just a little step above. Not much, but they are. But I give $1.79 a piece for these. I mean, for a 12 ounce. I mean, for your bang for your buck. I mean, it doesn't weigh in.
Yeah.
Price point for this beer to me. I didn't look what a 6-pack costs, but I'm sure it's probably up around $9-10 a 6-pack. I'm at least 8-9.
That's a lot. I'd rather just go grab some Budweiser or some Coors Banquet.
Yeah, I actually just about spent that much money on a 6-pack of Leinenkugel Oktoberfest this evening. So not even
on those October beers.
Yeah, sometimes craft beer isn't the only beer that's expensive. You'd be surprised.
But you know, and I'm going back to what County said. I mean, he'd rather for the price point go out and buy a Budweiser or a Coors Banquet. Uh, I, I tend to agree more with the Coors Banquet. I'm not dogging the Budweiser whatsoever, but if I had my choice of beers between this on draft or a Coors Banquet on draft or in a bottle per bottle, I'm going with the Coors Banquet because I think Coors Banquet outshines this beer 110% all day long.
Yeah, I actually really like Coors Banquet. I kind of mentioned it when I did the Budweiser versus Coors Banquet review. Coors Banquet has a little bit more flavor, in my opinion, than Budweiser. Budweiser seems to be slightly more smoother, but a little less flavor, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I really enjoy. I'm a big Coors Banquet guy. I really enjoy them, and yeah, by hands down, Coors Banquet over Flat Tire or Fat Tire.
Flat? No, is it a flat tire or is it a fat tire?
It's a Flat Tire over Coors Banquet.
Neutral
I always
taste.
get those two mixed up as well.
Yeah.
I got one other question for you guys. I like to do this on my beer reviews. I don't know if you guys have an opinion on it, but
Sure.
would you recommend this as a summer beer?
I would recommend this as a summer beer.
Summer beer, huh? Not this Imperial beer.
I mean, you're talking about 5.2%. I mean, it's a summer beer.
To me, it's a little too complex for summer beer. My ideal summer beer, hands down, would be MGD.
Whoa.
Miller Genuine Draft all the way, man.
Yeah.
I would not
That's
recommend.
real smooth. I love that MGD.
I mean, I guess it would really, really depend on what kind of a Imperial style craft beer you may be enjoying and may be thinking about, but I would definitely say the new Albanian Elector is borderline to me between it is very smooth and refreshing, but it's got a nice heft and a weight to it. In a nice way, it's got a nice heft and a weight to it where I don't think in 100-degree weather, the first thing I'm thinking of is, damn, I could go for a nice pint of Elector. No, nothing in that. I might even go as far as to say I would rather have a Optimum from Sierra Nevada on a hot day than Elector, but I would rather, go with Keone and say MGD is probably a better way to go on that. I would actually rather go for a Guinness. Personally, I think that's a nice refreshing beer, but that's just me.
I try to avoid things that are spicy or bitter when it's hot. It tends just to make me even more sweaty.
Yeah, it's gonna dry you out like a mess.
But I think we've kicked this in the butt pretty good. So, but overall, it's not a wow factor. It's not a buy again. I'd take it if somebody had it, give it to me. I'm like you. I give it a B plus for what this beer is, for the style of the beer, for what they've done to the beer. But overall, I'm like County. I mean, Coors Banquet, Miller Genuine Draft, Miller High Life. That'd be my go-to beers before this.
Yeah, definitely. Price and performance, you can't match those beers. This might be slightly more complex, a little bit more things going on with it, but given the price, it just cannot beat any of those domestic lagers.
And before we go, because I got to be different, sorry everybody, this Imperial Red Ale, except for John that I know of, I have never heard of this beer, never even heard of this brewery until a few hours ago. I'm looking for some kind of a red ale to enjoy the company of others with here on this video, on this YouTube video. And I stumbled across this one because I saw all these stone beers, and I said, what's this? And it was in a black bottle and a black labeling next to the stone beer. It's like, what is this beer? New Albanian. Oh, close enough to New Belgium. And it's actually, it was $8.95 for that big old bottle. And I would definitely say that if you find new Albanian beers, I'm going to try to go back to that store and buy a couple more because that's different in Massachusetts. Yeah. I would definitely say try this beer if you like Imperial IPAs, you like stuff like the Trogs, Nugget Nectar. Definitely give this bad boy a try. You will not be disappointed. That's
Yeah,
my
you get me tempted. I want to give that a try as well if I can find it in my area.
Trogs Nugget Nectar is even closer. It's like between Trogs Nugget Nectar and a Stone Arrogant Bastard. Let me put it
Wow.
that for you beer geeks out there.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So you guys have any last words before we wrap this up?
Uh,
As I say on my beer review channel, maybe this is a good way to close out the night. Until next time, keep tasting those great beers. Keone, we'll see you all soon.
yep.
Sweet.
You guys too.
I just want to make one little thing for everybody at home watching. There's John with Zone 1 Beer Reviews. I'll put his description down below so you can check out his channel. And also Massachusetts Beer Reviews. Eric over there, you can check out his channel. But until next time, YouTube, thanks for watching.